If you would ask me to design a defense that seemed purposefully intent on losing, it would be what Trump's team is doing in court right now. Judge Marchand and Trump's attorney just wrapped their show cause hearing to determine whether any sanctions would be imposed after Trump violated his gag order 10 times since it was handed down. Here are just a few moments from the hearing that puts on full display the disaster that was the Trump team's position when Judge Marchand questioned Trump's attorney Todd Blanche about his post. Quoting Jesse Waters, the Post read, "They are catching undercover liberal activists, lying to the judge in order to get on the Trump jury. There are two major issues. One is Blanche, trying to claim that Trump, reposting someone else's words, don't violate a gag order on him, as if it's a convenient little loophole, to say what you want to say by merely finding words that you can attribute to someone else, to which Judge Marchand said reposting is not passive conduct, someone had to do something. The other issue is that Trump didn't even directly quote just you. He manipulated his quote to better fit what Trump was trying to say. Marchand said, your client manipulated what was said and put it in quotes correct, to which Blanche ultimately concedes that the Jesse Waters post is quote, not a repost agreed. Blanche then contended that Trump needed to post because he was responding to purported attacks by Michael Cohen, to which Judge Marchand then asked for proof of those attacks. When Blanche to offer even one, Marchand said, you've presented nothing. I've asked you 8 or 9 times. Show me the exact post. He was responding to you've been unable to do that, even once. But Blanche then tried to save himself, saying regarding the gag order, we are trying to comply with it. There is no doubt that Trump is being very careful with your Honor's order, and that was so nakedly false that Judge Marchand then snapped back. You were losing all credibility with the court. I have to tell you right now, so not great, but somehow it managed to get worse because then, prosecutors promised to file another hearing to show cause for comments that Trump made yesterday about the jury. There is mostly all Democrat. You think of it as just a purely Democrat area. It's a very unfair situation that I can tell you one. What do you make of him commenting on the jury like that outside of court? And to his legal team, seemed to think that they did pretty well. And figuring out the jury, yeah, I think it is another violation of the gag order. You know that the judge put certain structures on different pieces of the gag order, like you could only not talk about witnesses if it had to do with their participation in the case. Even more strictures on when it was a violation, if you talked about court personnel and so on. But the jurors, the judge basically said, you may not make public statements that relate to the jurors period, like full stop more jury intimidation. The guy is priming his supporters, his dangerous supporters, to believe that the jury is all Democrats, so that if they returned a guilty verdict, Trump's fans will think that the fix was in, and given their proclivity to be dangerous, January 6th is a testament to exactly that. Trump knows that he can try and pressure the jury into ruling a certain way, if they want to preserve their own safety. Mob boss tactics for a mob boss defendant. And here's what's most insane. Despite the fact that Judge Marchand has thus far not handed down his decision, within minutes of the hearing ending, Trump took social attacking, the judge writing highly conflicted. To put it mildly, Judge, one Marchand has taken away my constitutional right to free speech. Everybody is allowed to talk and lie about me, but I am not allowed to defend myself. This is a kangaroo court, and the judge should recuse. First of all, Trump may take his supporters for fools, and he does, but the reality is that criminal defendants do not have unlimited rights to free speech. Judges are allowed to impose limits to protect the integrity of the trial, meaning Trump does not have the right to taint the jury pool, or to intimidate witnesses, for example, because those would undermine the ability of the trial to proceed fairly. If Trump wanted full unabridged rights to free speech, he should consider, not committing 34 felonies. And second, the judge hasn't even yet ruled, and already Donald Trump is attacking him, which, to be fair, he's legally allowed to do. The algorithm does not apply to the judge, but the decision by Trump to attack him, as Marchand is considering Trump's punishment, is tantamount to him begging to be punished. And the fact is that Trump once listened to Alina Habba, likening the prospect of Trump being jailed, pending trial, which, to be clear, isn't even what the prosecutors are asking for right now, to the plight of Nelson Mandela. Do you think that this threat of 30 days in jail will change the social media actions of the foreign president in any way, or will he keep doing this? I don't think so. I think that he is respectful but there has to be boundaries and we should appeal it. It's currently on appeal, so there's also a due process element to this. We have items on appeal, in this case that have not yet been heard. Is he concerned about the possibility of being sent to jail? As a ramification of these, he's not concerned about being sent to jail. I don't. I think, like anybody, he's concerned about going to jail. But if they put him in jail for his First Amendment right, he will be like Nelson Mandela. I mean, that would be just absurd, and frankly, they'll win the election. Even Trump himself has made that claim he posted. If this partisan hack wants to put me in the clink for speaking out open and obvious truth, I will gladly become a modern-day Nelson Mandela. In other words, Trump is desperate to be punished because he wants to be perceived as the victim. That's where Trump feels comfortable, feeling aggrieved and persecuted, so that he can go back to the suckers in his base and demand their money to solve the problems that he creates for himself. Here's my Inside the Right co-host Tim Miller discussing exactly that. On the one hand, I'm pretty surprised he knows who Nelson Mandela is, though. Princes are from like the 80s and 90s, tabloid era, so maybe Nelson Mandela was in the New York Post once or twice back in the day. I guess I don't think that Donald Trump wants to go to jail, even for a night. I don't think that he'd enjoy that very much. And also kind of there's a meekness right to having to submit like that I think that he would be very afraid of. I do think he wants to be the victim badly though, and it's by what you talked about social media accounts. It's evidenced by the emails and texts. I don't know if you suffer through those, but I get them on Donald Trump's list, so I can kind of see what he's saying and have, a huge percentage of those fundraising emails and texts over the past few days have been, "Oh, woe is me, they're not letting me see the graduation. They're going to put Nelson, all this sort of, victim stuff. They're treating me poorly." And so I do think that he wants to push the envelope as much as possible to kind of get wrapped on the knuckles, so he can get the victimology out of it, without necessarily having to, actually suffer consequences. That's the sweet spot for Donald Trump, breaking the rules as much as possible, without actually suffering consequences. So I think that's what he's trying to do this time as well. So at this point, we'll wait and see what judgment opts to do again. Prosecutors are not seeking jail time right now, and realistically, it's not going to happen as the result of this first tranche of violations. Right now, they're seeking a $10,000 fine, and for him to delete all of the offending posts. But ideally, the judge will make it clear that these previous violations were already strike one, and strike two, in that, if Trump so much as borders on violating this gag order, or intimidating witnesses or intimidating jurors, that he will spend the next 30 days, per violation, in jail. Because let's be clear, if it was any other defendant, they would have already long since been familiarizing themselves with the inside of a cell. Trump has spent his entire life of evading accountability. Judge Michel can either uphold the notion that there are two tiers of justice in this country, or he can prove that Trump isn't above the law. In short order, we're about to find which one it is. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel, and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads. I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.